you to everyone who's joined us already. This is the first Splash Branding webinar that I've done so far. Thank you so much, Rob, for coming on. It's a real pleasure. You've been so supportive. I can't thank you enough. So we won't run over time because I know a lot of you are quite hungry and want to get on with lunch and then back to work. So we put this on today to talk about personal branding for lawyers. It's a really up and coming topic, I suppose. It's still a fairly new concept. A lot of people still aren't quite sure what it means, how to do it. It also gets quite a lot of bad press. I know some people feel uncomfortable about it still, but I think it's time to break some barriers around that because it is going to become really central to building a career, building a business, etc. So Rob, for a first question, because it is something that people feel a little bit confused about sometimes, how would you define personal branding?
Yeah, well, firstly, thank you so much for having me, Daisy. I'd just like to say I really appreciate what you're doing and love what you're doing for the legal community, and it's so needed right now. So thank you to you as well for what you've been doing. And good afternoon once again, everyone. I see some friends here as well, so appreciate you tuning in. For me, personal branding, you don't need to overcomplicate it. It's myself, right? We're all one of a kind. We're all unique. And the question that I always ask people to think about when you think about personal branding is why? You know, what's your legacy? What is that reputation that you want to create as an extension of your personal brand? Because I believe the strength of your personal brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room and how that's connected to the message that you want to portray, to put out to the world. So, you know, if it's a very disconnect, if you hear from somebody, oh, I was hearing about you, you've been X, Y, and Z, and that's not aligned with your values and your why, then perhaps your personal brand isn't really where you want it to be. But it's all about your reputation, that legacy, what you want to be seen as. That's the number one thing for me when it comes to personal branding. And happy to tell you a little bit more about sort of, you know, what I do and, you know, the values attached to that and why I believe it's so important.
I think that would be great if you could, because you have a really strong personal brand. I appreciate how much effort you must put in over years to build up to where you are, and the value that you add to the legal community. I mean, the Legally Speaking Club, the podcast, I've been listening to the podcast since I was in foundation year 2019, and it's really helped me you know, get to know practice areas and different roles and stuff like that. So it's hugely valuable what you're creating. So when did you start building a personal brand, and what spurred you into doing that?
Yeah, no, and thank you again for your kind words. I think it was to be different. You know, we're all a one of one. You know, for those of you familiar with the Web3 world and NFTs, you know, we are a one of a kind. We cannot be duplicated. And I think we have to get into the mindset that we all have a story. We all have something we could communicate that could be of value to a particular audience. So when I was thinking of when I started my KC Partners, which is a legal talent solutions and now content creation firm, where we're trying to help lawyers with careers and securing jobs, but lots more, as you mentioned. And so vehicles have come off that business to enable me to build a personal brand. Because I think a personal brand, just to sort of segue back to the original question to come to, so it's your insurance policy. You know, you could lose a job, I could lose my business, I could lose everything, but my personal brand is probably my biggest asset. You know, it's my biggest thing that I want to protect, continuously develop, continuously work on, because the stronger your personal brand, the stronger the opportunities, the relationships, the business that will come as a result of that, and indeed friendships. You know, I think, you know, we're seeing the humanization. You just look at LinkedIn now, it's a far more human to human rather than business to business platform, which I think has been needed for some time. But with that, to come back to your question, yeah, the Legally Speaking podcast was one vehicle that we really designed that I knew could give me an opportunity to build a personal brand. Because when you're thinking of a personal brand, for me, you know, as you very kindly said, I'm looking to try and build a legal community that's far kinder, far more collaborative. We're helping people, we're informing people, we're inspiring people. But to do that, you need high value content, and you need the right sort of tools in your toolbox to deliver that. And so with our Legally Speaking podcast, we started as a very tiny little acorn back in I believe 2019. We were the first ever legal recruitment firm to do that. It was a very different strategy. And to where we are today, where, we're in the top 1.5% globally. We're sponsored by Clio, who's a legal tech unicorn, a centaur business, 100 million turnover, annual recurring revenue. And, we've had Stephanie Boyce, head of Law Society, president of Law Society, through to Carol Baskin, and all these amazing things. But the reality of that journey is it's helped me build a personal brand, because I'm collaborating with right and like-minded people doing interesting things for the legal community, sharing their wisdom, sharing their careers, advice and tips. Because connected to my personal brand, the key thing is I want to help people with careers, legal careers specifically. So the content I put out, that is very much in line with that. So the Legally Speaking podcast we address, and as you mentioned, you started in foundation year, you're learning about different practice areas, you're understanding the different, nuances of the law, different areas, different ways you can approach the law, different backgrounds you can come from, where the legal, and that was all part of my strategy in terms of how do I differentiate myself from every other maybe legal recruiter that's out there in the marketplace to be seen as a thought leader, somebody who's maybe going above and beyond, doing something different, to put something into the ecosystem, to build a community. Because the stronger your personal brand, you'll create that know, like and trust factor. And that's what, fortunately, after a lot of hard work, as you mentioned, we've done over 160 episodes now and been going consistently for 2.5, 3 years. And consistency is definitely a key thing I would stress when you're coming to anything that you're going to do. That's really helped me build a personal brand, and lots of opportunities have come off the back of it, and it's been great. But I would strongly encourage collaboration, understanding why you're doing what you're doing, who you want to, who is it you're trying to help, and then really double down on that.
It sounds like there's a really strong purpose through your whole brand and through all of the activities. Because roughly how much time do you invest in your personal brand, say on a weekly basis or a monthly basis? Because there's a lot of content that you put out there.
Yeah, it's my number one activity. And people say to me, because I'm a big believer in, as a business owner and entrepreneur and involved in other businesses, I also invest in other businesses as well. You've got to work on your business, not in your business. And so I've got to work on my personal brand. And so it's really important to me, because as I say, it's the number one lead magnet. It's great because I can start conversations, I can draw people in, I can curate things, because it's my top of the funnel, if you like. The more that I'm known, like, and trusted within the legal industry, the more conversations that I'm probably going to start, and I can trickle them down into where potentially I could build that relationship and create a long tail off the top of my funnel with my personal brand. So I'm working on it every day. It's my number one thing, because I believe it's so important. Now, that might sound overwhelming to certain people, thinking, well, I've got a full-time job, I'm lawyering 24/7. Hopefully you're not, you are getting some respite, but when do I find time? And so that's maybe where we should talk about, is it as complicated, or do you have to be everywhere and all of these things? Because I can appreciate we see so much out there at the moment that it could be overwhelming. And, I know you do so much to help coach people and reduce that overwhelm and start sharing their stories and build their personal brand, but it doesn't have to be. So just because what you're hearing me say, that works for me because it's important for me and what I'm trying to do. For your personal brand and what you're trying to do, it may not have to be every day. It may be segmented into different ways. So I think it's important that I highlight that what I'm doing works for me. So take what you think may or may not work for you and make sure it's right for you and your personal brand. But for me, it's my number one thing that I'm most invested in, and it's paid me back the biggest ROI.
I think that's a really good point to make about overwhelm as well, because social media in itself, the platforms are designed to get us hooked. They want us on them all day, every day. And so as somebody helping people build personal brands and trying to get lawyers comfortable on social media, I'm very aware of this, of the harmful effects of it, and mitigating those risks, and saying it's not about comparing where you are to where somebody else is and seeing this person get 5,000 likes and you get 10. It's not about that at all. It's about what are you trying to get out of it, and measuring your progress against yourself and not against other people. But it can be hard to do because it is quite a comparison fest sometimes, and toxic positivity.
But there's a chap called Steve Olsher who I learned a lot about podcasting from. I think he's one of the best, and he always talks about what is your what. And I think when you really understand what is your what, and what is important to you, what are you trying to deliver, which is another way of saying what is your why. Once you really figure that out, then you can immediately block out whatever else is going on around you. Because, for me, I have so much competition out there. There's lots of other agencies, there's now lots of other podcasts, there's lots of other things going on. But flip the mindset in terms of, for me, what is my topic of influence? Maybe this is an important thing I should talk about. When I think of my personal brand, and maybe I should have articulated this before, what is my topic of influence? My topic of influence is legal careers. What do I mean by a topic of influence? That is the pain point I'm trying to service. Okay, so imagine someone is going into Google, maybe like yourself, Daisy, legal careers, or how to become a corporate lawyer, or how to get a training contract, or how to, whatever it may be. When I was thinking about my personal brand and what I wanted to be connected to, I want my name to be top of mind for those pain points. That's my topic of influence. But then once I've understood my topic of influence, I needed vehicles to then articulate my authority, hence my podcasts, events, collaborations with the London Young Lawyers Group, and where people are in our, law society collaborations, all of these things, because it's a synergy. So I think for anyone thinking here, it's like, what do I want to be thought of with my content or my personal brand? What is that pain point that I want someone to think about? Okay, maybe I see my good friend Scott, business development, or something like that. I want to be the forefront of, I want to be the figurehead for that. And then what are the vehicles I'm going to use to drive my personal brand? So what I call the WAV strategy. So you can either have written, audio, or video. So, certain people may absolutely detest doing video. I don't have time for video. I don't want to do video. There's too much friction. Totally understand. Don't do video. If you like audio, then you can do audio because you've got an audio options out there now, or written. If you're a wordsmith, lots of people here will be lawyers, fantastic with words, use that as your superpower. But there's various different ways. So don't feel like, oh, I need to do this or I need to do that. Of course, you want to kind of break out of your comfort zone at times. But again, don't overcomplicate things. I think you really need to understand, why do I want to bother building a personal brand, and what is that going to leave for me? And for me, it is, I want to leave a legacy, because I talk a lot about why I set up my business, my grandfather running his own successful law firm. And, I want to carry that legacy and that journey on, but in this digital, fast moving world, utilizing these resources for good, not for bad. That's why, you look at my content, I don't get the level of engagement certain others would. But does that deter me from stopping No, because I believe in what I'm doing. And it's also the lurkers and the people in the background that are reading. They're the ones you're probably going to do business with, because they're the ones that are going to be reaching out to you, sending you the messages and all of that good stuff, which you all know all too well, Daisy.
Yeah, that's been quite a surprise for me early on. So I started up beginning of February. And a lot of the inquiries that I've had in have been from people that have never commented on my post, never really liked anything, but they're reading it over and over and over. So it is just keeping that in mind again when we start to compare ourselves with other people. It's not about the likes, it's not about the comments or the views, it's about your leads, it's about your sales, it's whatever goals you've set and measuring your progress against that. You said something really important there about focusing on your topic of influence. And I've read the 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss, and he said about being very selective about the information you consume. And this is the challenge that I face in my personal brand. I'm easily distracted. I'm interested in lots of different things. And so sometimes my posts are a bit chaotic, because I might bounce from, personal branding to feminism to entrepreneurship to something else. So, I just show up authentically as me, and that's what works for me. But depending on what someone's goals is, the more focused you can be on kind of one thing, the less overwhelm, and you're also training the algorithm who to show your content to. So yeah, that's a really, really good advice.
It's true, but at the same time, you're a human. So that authenticity is what people will be drawn into. And, you're not going, like me, I'm not everybody's cup of tea. Quite frankly, quite a lot of people probably don't like my tea whatsoever, but that's good, because you need to sanitize your audience and create your community that do want you, who do understand what you're trying to do, who do believe in your authenticity and do want to support you. Because I do believe, and I know it's the overused C word at the moment, but the power of community, organize, and you're seeing more. Who would have thought there was a head of community role 10 years ago in business? But I would say it's probably one of the number one things now, if you're looking to try and attract new business to any organization, is understanding the power of community and how that can really be your great top of the funnel to bring people in, and you can foster relationships and actually create an ROI. Because let's be real as well, within law firms, they're for-profit businesses, and we have to be very open. It's a for-profit business. There's nothing wrong with making a profit. And I think this community stuff is not woo-woo. It's really powerful and can actually take your profits to an even higher level. And you look at people that are doing very well. You look at Alex Su, for example, some people may know on LinkedIn, at Ironclad, and what he's been able to do, and just the revenue that they've been able to draw onto that business. I think if more and more law firms look at this seriously, the level of revenue that could be significantly increased would be far surprising. And I'd love to see a study on that in 5 years' time, once these roles do appear and more of them do, and encouraging more lawyers within the firms to create a personal brand, because employee advocacy is one of the best ways to advertise your business.
That would be very interesting to see. Leading on from this talk about community, tell us about the Legally Speaking Club. So I joined the Discord server, I don't know, maybe a month back now, and I purchased my first ever legal coin the other day. So tell us about Legal Coin. Tell us about the Legally Speaking Club. Why should people join it?
Yeah, it's a very good question. So a lot of people might be thinking, what's Legal Coin and what's Discord, firstly? And hopefully these are quite new and exciting things to you, because like back then when we started the Legally Speaking podcast, we were the first legal recruiting firm to do that. Now I believe we're the first in the world to create our own Web3 creator crypto coin. So what is Legal Coin? Basically, Legal Coin is our way of growing our community far broader and wider, but also rewarding people. Because I think it's very important nowadays, because so many of you will be in WhatsApp groups, you'll be in Slack channels, you'll be in so many community pods, and it can get quite overwhelming. So what we're saying to people who are part of Legally Speaking Club, hey, we're going to give you free access to resources, so events, masterclasses, content, obviously all of our Legally Speaking podcast episodes, you name it. There's going to be a whole hub of content there to support you with your legal journey, wherever you may be at the start of your career, looking to get a training contract, just qualified, associate, senior associate, managing associate, partner, or thinking of setting up your own firm, thinking of going to consultant, whatever it may be. We've created this hub, this Discord server, where we can have interactive community-led discussions and people can support each other in a controlled environment. But then what a great way to say, hey, Daisy, thanks for being an active member in our community. Here's 5 Legal Coin, for example. So treat it as like a nectar card. It's like a rewards card. It's actually a way to say thank you ever so much for being a valuable member of our community. Thank you for being a wonderful citizen. Thank you for contributing. Here's our way of saying thank you, okay? Other things we can do. Holders who hold a certain amount of Legal Coin will then get access to certain other things, maybe VIP content, maybe one-to-one sessions. So with my vast legal networks, I know a lot of law firm owners, partners, associates, senior associates. So maybe I could partner somebody up to have a one-to-one session with an associate if you're looking to try and secure a training contract, understood how they do that. Maybe someone's senior associate not sure how to get to partner. What is the track that they need to do? I can connect them through that. So it's a reward. We're creating our own economy within our community, but by rewarding people for participating and being part of it. So yes, of course, and we can't promote it as this, and I do not promote it as this because it's very important that we make it clear. But of course, the coin is very early. It will appreciate over time as we grow the community. So it's a case of we want to make sure people actually get value. So you may also think, Rob, I've got all that I needed out of the Legally Speaking Club community now. Thank you ever so much for what you've done for me. But this is kind of the end of the journey. You could then sell your Legal Coin for fiat. So then you actually get a cash reward as well on top if you wanted to. Again, it's not about that because it's more about the rewards and the actual content that you get. But there's multiple layers to actually rewarding people for being in the community and taking part and taking an active role. And we could even go a step further. Daisy, thank you so much for attending the Personal Branding for Lawyers Masterclass. Here's 10 Legal Coin for showing up. Lunch and learns. Lunch, learn and earn. We can do all these creative things, which I think make it a really exciting time to be part of our community, because we're going a step further, not just to educate, entertain, and inspire. We're now putting that reward and creating our own economy within that. And I think that's the whole decentralized Web3 movement and where the world is going with social tokens and things like that. And I'm super excited about it. but there's lots of pain points, and it's very, very hard and very hard and stressful trying to sort all the automation and technology out. But that's where I think community building will go in the future, where there'll be more of these kind of loyalty card focused communities where people actually get a reward for things. And it could also be like you get access to merchandise, all these different little things. But that's really the route we're going, and really kind of building on our Legally Speaking podcast to take it to the next level, because you can get to what got you here will not get you there. And so at the moment, we're in this very comfortable level of, okay, we're established, we're a good show, we've got all these amazing people that have come on, but one of our values is excitement. Okay, so how do we keep that excitement? We need to take the journey to Web3, and we need to educate people along and take them on the journey. So that's why we're doing that.
I think educating along the way will be a big part of that, because I mean, you sent me Legal Coin a few weeks ago, I think, and I looked at it and I didn't really understand it. And then I looked at it again and I was like, I'll buy some of this. But Web3, for example, I haven't even looked at that at all. I'm still behind on NFTs. Things are developing so quickly that having kind of a community leader to guide us along the way is brilliant, and it builds that community and makes it stronger. So that does sound really exciting.
Yeah, and I think that's the whole point, is making it inclusive. There's no such thing as a silly question. Everybody is welcome. And I think that's really important. And again, it's what your values stand for. But for me, really being ahead, because, and maybe people won't appreciate this, but it's true when you think of marketing, it's better to be first than it is to be better. I'll say that again. It's better to be first than it is to be better sometimes. So what I mean by that is we want to ensure that we are first and we are doing our absolute best as we can. Doesn't mean we'll get absolutely everything right all the way. No, but we will earn the right from the support of our community, because they'll appreciate what we're trying to do in terms of taking them on the journey. Whereas, you will then go to other communities once this becomes more of a normal thing, and your expectations will be, well, no, I expect it to be like this, I expect it to be like that, because you become used to the new kind of environment. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. It kind of raises everyone's expectations, and it yeah. And well, that sounds really exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing where that goes.
Yeah, it should be good. And everyone's heard the Wayne Gretzky quote, I think 1,000,001 times, when he talks about the puck. He doesn't go to where the puck is, he goes to where the puck is going. And I think that's the point for us. We're going where the journey of this sort of new technology and community building is, and we want to be at the forefront of it. Yeah,
very future focused.
Yeah.
We've only got a few minutes left, so I'm not sure. We might get time for maybe one question at the end. If anyone who's watching wants to ask Rob a question about personal branding, feel free to pop it in the comments. The final question for you, Rob. What is your what is your top tip for lawyers looking to build a personal brand?
It really doesn't need to be complicated. It's just start. I think a lot of this is fear. I think there's a lot of fear that I'm not sure what I should be doing, what I should be saying, what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. I would honestly encourage you, if you can sort of remove any mindsets or doubts or worries and just realize that people need this. Look at it from a different perspective. You are selfish not sharing your stories, your values. There will be somebody through your personal brand, you will be able to impact and improve their life and bring that benefit to them. I can 100% guarantee it from any of your life experiences, what you're doing in your current role. And so remove that fear or worry about what about this, what about that, and think about, I'm being selfish not sharing this. I'm being selfish not helping people, knowing that I could add something to the ecosystem, whatever it be. And that is in the form of just starting, because done is better than perfect, because perfect never gets done. It's one of my favorite quotes. And I know lawyers will disagree with that when they're looking at documents and everything. But when it comes to personal branding, done is definitely better than perfect, because perfect will never get done. That perfect thing, that perfect whatever, it doesn't exist. Perfectionism doesn't exist. So please do just start and speak to people like Daisy along the way who can help you.
I think that's brilliant advice. And the other thing with perfectionism on social media is, if all of your posts are perfect, it doesn't come across as authentic. It doesn't come across as human, and it actually limits and sabotages your potential to connect with people one-on-one. So it's not about perfection. It's just about showing up as yourself over and over and over. And I mean, from my experience, opportunities just present themselves along the way. Take them. You never know what's going to come next. And really, it is the potential is limitless, isn't it? You don't know what's going to come from it. You don't know what the future holds. So just start.
There's such a long tail in terms of your, if you look at the sort of business opportunities from a personal brand. And so that's why I think it's so valuable. And I would just encourage people to, look at other people, but don't get overwhelmed, and actually think about, well, what do I want to do? What's the legacy I want to leave? And I guarantee you from there, some ideas will flow and you'll be able to start getting out there. But it's the best thing you can invest in for 2022, because we're in the era of the information era. People, one of my friends said to me the other day, we're drowning in information, we're craving wisdom. That's the reality. We are drowning in so much information. There's so much noise out there, but your wisdom, if you can perfect that in a message that actually hits home to the audience you want to receive, your personal brand will skyrocket.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for speaking to us today, Rob. I think this has been a really interesting conversation. Obviously, I would think that, but I think it's been great. Thank you again. If you want to drop any links or anything in the chat box, I'm going to upload this recording, so I'll make sure they're included with it. Just thank you. That's it, really.
Well, thank you, Daisy, as well. I just want to give you a personal shout out. So I do believe, what you're doing is so needed, and you are authentic, you're kind, you're human. And that's the other thing I would just finish on. We're in a human to human professional world now. Let's try and show more of our human styles, because people will do business with people that they can relate to. So the more human you can be, and you can look at the people that are developing good personal brands, particularly in the legal space, they're showing that human side. Almost the fact you have that legal skill set is a given. The more you can show that human side to yourself, the more connection, that human to human connection you will get, the far better you'll be. But I just congratulate on what you've done. I admire you, Daisy. I think you're doing a wonderful job, and please keep it up. And anything more we can do as part of our community, please let us know. We're more than happy to support you. And thank you so much for having me. Really enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you very much. That's really lovely. Definitely. I mean, I'm in the Discord server, so we'll keep chatting through there, and I recommend anyone to join it, really, because there's so many valuable resources in there, and it's a nice community to be a part of. Thanks everyone for coming today. I hope you enjoyed it. If there's anything you want to see in the future, let me know. I'm hoping to build / kind of in the direction that everyone wants me to build it in, because I'm doing this for all of you. So thanks again, and speak to you soon.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.